Well, everyone, we're going to kick off this podcast episode with Jennifer Castenson. So, Jennifer, thank you for being with us and sharing the knowledge that you have in the construction tech and maybe even the affordable space and some other things. I know you've done a lot of interesting things. And thanks for joining us here on the show today.
It's an honor. Thank you for inviting me. I'm super excited to be here.
Delighted. So, my kind of place I hang out a lot, at least on the social media side, is LinkedIn, and I know you're active there. And I've actually been hanging out more on Twitter, but then of course LinkedIn is kind of my go-to space. And a lot of more people that are very kind of on the serious side of, well, guess whatever venture you're in, tend to congregate in certain spots in social media. So I liked what I saw, some of the things you're putting out there in the construction tech space. And as you know, whether it's investing in the affordable space or existing product, we both recognize the need to do, construction differently, fresh, not just the same old thing we've been doing for, 100, 200 years, but with a fresh approach, fresh eyes. Their demographics changing, the labor force is shrinking, all these problems here. So could you just kick off the convo about your own journey in the construction industry and what led you to your current role? Just kind of give a high level view of who you are for the audience.
Yeah, for sure. So I've had the pleasure of working in a lot of different verticals within the construction space. I worked first for a developer, and then was with a building products manufacturer for a number of years, and then a media group. I worked at Zonda. When I was there, it was Hanley Wood, and then transitioned to Zonda. And now I am with a tech company called BuildExact, and a startup in the space, construction project management software.
What just to talk about that real quick, I'm a general contractor. I used to be a general contractor, mechanical engineer. So anyone that's been in the space or maybe has done flips or just basically if you touch buildings, you are aware of the challenges of running and managing construction projects. What is kind of the foundational ethos or thesis of the company? Why did they launch? What need did they see to fix?
Sure. They saw basically that there are a lot of custom home builders and smaller modelers out there that don't have back office assistance. And so we're able to fill that gap with this one platform that actually puts all stakeholders together. So a custom home builder or modeler can get in and from pre-design all the way to final invoice, manage a project on one platform. So, whereas other larger builders have a back end, they have admin, they have all these other functions in place, BuildExact is a tool that allows somebody to do that. And there's such a large marketplace out there for contractors, general contractors, and custom home builders, that this has been able to bring more transparency to the whole entire process and project, and more efficiency, where before it's still in an evolution of moving from pen and paper to Excel to online.
Absolutely. Do they have an app, by the way, that to kind of integrate some of those on the job challenges that we all know about?
Sure, absolutely. So we're launching an app. One of our best features as part of the software is our takeoff tool. So it's a little bit hard and sticky to manage on an app. However, we are launching an app for that will be useful for most of the platform.
Amazing. Now, so thank you for giving us the kind of the details there in BuildExact. Give us a little background just on yourself. Did you grow up in the construction space, or was there family connections there, or what kind of led you into that space? We know it's a male-dominated field, but there's we can't get enough people. It doesn't matter whether they're men or women or whatever. We need more people in the space. So what led you into that? Just so we know that story.
Sure. Yeah. So I just tripped on it, was in Dallas, Texas, and my first job was with Hillwood Properties at Alliance Airport, for Ross Pro Jr.'s development. And I was doing PR and marketing at that point. So from there, it was an easy foray into the other roles that I mentioned before.
Awesome. Let's talk about, since that's just kind of this very specific spot there in the construction space, a lot of times we focus on, like a new methodology, like a new, way of cutting the wood, or, 3D printing the concrete or something like that. So this is a very important space as well, that where you can't get the product out there, or like all the, like you said, all the back end stuff, the demands of technology, or just the demands of a business in America or across the world, in the developed world, all this, insurance and costing and back, accounting, all these things that are consuming a lot of resources in the back end. So that's amazing that you've focused and tackled in that space. How would you say that kind of technology is shaping the future, or even the current, the present and the future of residential construction, especially in terms of affordability and efficiency?
Oh my gosh, there's so many ways, as you know, and there's, the 3D printing, the capabilities of additive manufacturing. One of the things that I've been tracking for the longest, which I think will have a pretty large impact, is just manufacturing. So how are we taking building offsite and the efficiencies that that brings? Not only the efficiencies that it brings, but the efficiencies lead to cost reductions for sure. But in all of that process, you're also getting much more sustainable and efficient performing products. So that is also a huge aspect, because we don't just want to bring somebody a cheap product or a lower cost product. It has to be high quality. And in that high quality, there are elements of health and well-being that we haven't been able to focus on before when we're delivering affordable products.
And hopefully, I mean, maybe just to put this together for the listening audience, of course, we have high quality and affordable. We're hoping like a stack of all those kinds of different technologies, whether it's the actual materials or the delivery or the logistics or the back end. Hopefully, the high quality and reduced cost can deliver a reduced final product to all the folks across the world. But let's just keep it with America that need affordable housing. Do you see that kind of like is that really the final point, or is it the focus more narrow than that?
So, I mean, I think that and it's not even more narrow, there's so many hoops and so many factors that go into all of that.
Yeah.
And, we could peel back one of them and spend days peeling back one of them. So, and it's just such a compilation. And I would say one thing that, one of your questions is about how does media influence this space. And I think that one thing that technology and media has done is given us access and transparency to data. And when you're looking at those things, I haven't in my lifetime seen so much covered, so many frontline front page stories. I'm saying front page, that's an old way to say it, but
Lead
so
stories, the first thing you see, whether
sure.
it's printed or an online, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So much covered on the housing market, right? I mean, every day there's so much that's all taking a look at what is the affordability and the different data sets. And I think as an industry, we have to have some sort of consistency on those reporting, and then also use that to help create the efficiencies and identify where the challenges are in the processes, and then peel those back to cut out layers. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that we can create more efficiency and reduce cost.
If you had to, we're speaking at fairly high level. If you had to just give the folks and myself just a few like actual tangible things, what are like the most promising? Like we're talking about like there's like the field is vast and there's lots of challenges and there's always areas we could focus on. What are like give us 2 or 3 technologies or verticals that you really see like happening now that are very promising and seem like they're gonna like everyone's on board?
Oh boy. Let's see. I mean, I think that there's a pretty big chasm in what's happening with 3D printing for
Okay,
one.
yeah.
I mean, I think that to me has been pretty sexy. And so it does get interest in it, buy-in from the industry, and I guess more from the public. So I think that the big opportunity is just public education, because I think a lot of people think that any sort of developer is out there just to take land and make money. And I think that understanding or being able to show what goes into a project from consumer demand perspective, like a consumer wants smart technology, they want healthy, they want sustainable, they want all these things.
Yeah.
For a builder to be able to respond to that, plus to respond to building codes, plus to respond to increasing climate change and climate risk, and to adapt to what's happening in the insurance marketplace. All these factors, the increasing cost of land in different areas, the migration patterns, all of those things have to go into a product for a consumer that the consumer is happy with, and it's their biggest purchase, right? So it is such a complicated world, and there's so much that a builder has to think about. And if there's an education of that process that the consumer can identify with and or just be smarter about and more empathetic to, I think then we'd have a better ecosystem.
That's amazing insights. And I think some of your, just for the folks, you actually write for Forbes as well. So I kind of saw some of that journalistic kind of like bullet point fact, the detail, some of the things that you consider high level details and how they kind of feed into that. Also, but also as a writer, if you just give us a little insight and some of the things you've done for Forbes, and obviously I'm sure you've written for other publications, what is the best way, Jen, to get that type of education? Like there's like, we hear so much about education, there's lots of free stuff on YouTube. What is right now the most effective way of getting kind of like that base level education to, whether it's to the builders, because it's so complicated, the builders need to be educated and kept up to date, but also like your focus in that last comment was for the buying public, the house buying public.
Yeah, so I'm no authority on this, but I have fun with it. I like to discuss this. But I think that when we're talking about this and education, there's no really single source of truth. But I do think that people can seek to find the truth. And there are definitely some credible sources out there. So I think that it's just for people to find and to also check their sources. So I think
who do you recommend? Like I know you've worked for the NAHB and some other resources. You feel like those are good organizations to go to their website, and or who do you recommend for people to?
Yeah, I mean, I
look
think
at?
that, yeah, I really like following so I definitely focus on housing innovation. So I think
Yeah.
that when I follow people, I'm looking at the Fast Company. There's that just focuses on some of the new and emerging technology trends. I look at science journals. I look at, really dig into, and the things that I report on, I try to bring forward case studies that really show and compare to conventional mechanisms, so that we can actually have data points and prove to the industry at large that there is a change dynamic there that they can actually adopt and be successful with. So, I mean, I think that, like I said, I think there's a lot of sources out there, and I think all of them need to be checked, including myself.
Okay, well, just again, because I always like to, as we go, we talk high level and deep, but I would like to give the folks, the audience, a little bit of like actual, I don't have a recommendation, but how about what you do? Who do you like you said, scientific journals and some other maybe online publications or people? I guess I encourage my guests to be bold, like, hey, this is who I like, who I follow, who I've been following and enjoying. Can you give us 2 or 3 folks or entities that you've found to be helpful?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. So ADL Ventures, Nolan Brown, he is tracking some of, so with saying his name, I think that there's some VC groups out there that are really vetting some of the emerging innovators and technologies out there. So he's one of them for sure. Chris Langford is another one that I think is great. And there's some other, like, just some super high level thinkers that are trying to adopt technology and spur them forward. Ambassador Supply is another one. Brad Crawford is the CEO there, and I think that they're doing a great job in a really non-traditional role. They're doing a great job of identifying technology and bringing it forward.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for those resources. That's helpful for me because I am interested in this space as well and want to follow these people that like, you know, these other people that are more into it. Like some of these things you're more in depth on it than me. So I want to like follow the people that you find to be, you know, accurate and seem to be doing good work. So thank you for that, for those points. Um, let's see here. Let's talk about your involvement with some organizations. And I mentioned NAHB. What kind of as far as just building organizations or even that one in particular, do you find them to be maybe this is maybe too broad of a question, but maybe we could go somewhere with this. Do you find them to be pointed in the right direction and trying to do good work and helping builders get to the next stage and have an active ear for construction tech? What's been your perception of kind of the organizational attitude, the leadership?
Yeah, so I can't speak to the leadership, but I do know that some of the committees that I'm participating in, for instance, the Leading Suppliers Council, we as a group are trying to put together a contest, and this is an ideation phase. So
Sure, yeah.
So we're trying to put together a contest and display of how prefab and modular construction can improve affordability. So it's a group of manufacturers, consultants, service providers who are thinking of new dynamics and ways to highlight the potential of that solution. And we, you know, it's something that as a group we came up with and are trying to execute it for the International Builder Show and show off the potential of that as a solution, and all to drive more affordability.
Awesome. And just I use the term NAHB, and that's the National Association of Home Builders. And you just mentioned the International Builders Association, or home builders, or builders. Sorry.
It was National Association of Home Builders.
National.
As part of that, it's the Leading Suppliers Council.
Okay, awesome, amazing. Okay, cool. So I had a question here. So on the Home Improvement Research Institute, what, that maybe you've already kind of addressed that, what trends and insights can you share about the future of home improvement? So I guess we're kind of pivoting a little bit from just like new product. Is there anything that's interesting? This is like kind of very niche question. Is there some interesting trends you see on existing? Obviously, there's millions of homes, millions of existing homes of commercial and residential, and maybe we'll just focus on residential. Is there some interesting things you've seen in the home improvement space that flippers and remodelers and some other people and all the existing stuff out there? Anything that caught your eye?
Oh my gosh, a ton. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna
like seriously,
really
like here I follow the space and like I'm just like, oh, just a normal.
Yeah.
Plywood and Home Depot and lumber and caulk. That's all I know. That's all.
Not at all. Okay. So first of all is that mortgages are more expensive. So people are trying to stay in place, or people are staying in place more. You know, the home flipping of homes and moving is not happening as frequently as it was. Second of all, there's more remote work. So people are changing their space in order to adapt to be working from home where they weren't before.
Yeah.
Second of all, or third, excuse me, we just came through this massive pandemic and people realize how their space impacts their health and well-being. So they're making adaptations for that as well. And then fourth, I mean, I could probably go on and on, but so another one is that people this is kind of a subset of impacting your health and well-being, but people are changing and adopting some of the ambitions of local governments, local jurisdictions to remove gas. So,
yeah,
you know, they're updating their appliances, they're going to heat pumps. So it's a lot of different dynamics. And then another one is that, you know, there's a revenue stream that's capability. So people are looking at EV chargers just to save on energy costs and or batteries and EV electric vehicles. All of that ties in together. And also another revenue generator might be adding an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit on your property. So a lot of that is happening all together.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so I guess like it's simply just like awareness, kind of certain things emerged from COVID and the pandemic, and the work that kind of coincided or was precipitated by work from home, or in the inverse of that. Either way, they're both there. What do you see as, is simply it's awareness, but then you see potential for revenue or like new design thinking, or what are like some takeaways there that like people like could dig into, like, oh, that's a new concept and new thought, potential for an architect or a builder to focus in. What's kind of the what's the summary, what's the recommendation there for for builders and people in the space?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I think that it's, bringing in energy consultants is first and foremost on my mind. So
Okay.
that's a huge part of retrofits and new construction, is that it needs to meet our 2050 goals. And there are so many different elements that, geospatial and beyond, that impact how the house will perform. The other thing, coming from a totally different angle, is we are working from home. We're doing a lot more from home. And there are so many new technologies that facilitate that for us and our user experience as a homeowner.
Yes.
Um, so the smart home technology, there can be a smart home consultant. We just talked to the Home Technology Association, Josh Christian, and he's got, templates for that. He also has, a whole list of contractors. But there are, with that being said, I think just it maybe a step further in the future is, how are you designing for deliveries, the drone deliveries, and
Oh, okay.
kinds
Yeah.
of things that,
Yeah.
that people can leave at your house. And then all of that is kind of, and then the community as well. So there's, how are you designing for facilitating a better community for people? So
Sounds like, yeah, it
yeah.
sounds like there's an opportunity there for maybe a newer, I guess some new flavors of contractors perhaps. And then also maybe on the design side for architects, or even architects that focus, and architects, designers, and whatnot, that are focused, that are kind of forward thinking as well. And then of course maybe some existing contractors. I'm just kind of thinking all the different like folks that would get excited and like, hey, this is a potential for an opportunity for a small business, or some type of some niche, that's not being explored or tapped into, that's perhaps a demand. And also this, I don't go too deep on this one, but there's been some tremendous, we know there's been tremendous amount of money unleashed by the Biden administration on on retrofits and solar panels, and upgrading these buildings, the existing stuff. So that's got to also be incentivizing for businesses around the country, to tap into that and say, hey, let's take an existing building and make it more energy efficient or smart, things like that. Are you seeing a response there, or a real surge in interest?
So there is, I have not seen a surge in interest. I think that people are a little bit hesitant about it.
Yeah.
And I do know, even, a presentation I saw just a few days ago, they're still working through how to propagate the Inflation Reduction Act to the states, and so that the states can execute on the dollars that they're being awarded. So that still isn't necessarily in place. And so I think once that does hit, then people will see that it is more tangible and start taking more action on it, hopefully. But I do think that the gates, I think the gates should open. And I think there are, like I mentioned before, jurisdictions that are taking a step forward in
Yeah.
their code, and getting rid of natural gas. Well, when they do that, that's going to be when contractors, I guess, feel like there's more of an opportunity to move forward and go to home buyers and homeowners and say, hey, you need to upgrade your system, and this is what I can offer you. But with all that being said, we should be able to now at this point say, and this is your property, this is what you're spending on energy, this is how I can upgrade it. These are the credits you're going to get back, and this is your energy savings. So how does that balance out
Yeah.
over the rest of the life of your mortgage? It might break even. So I think more people need to put a pen to paper and look at those numbers.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Just for my education here, Jen, is the funding that's available through the Inflation Reduction Act, is that available now? And states are just trying to like um, streamline it or get a little more tighter guidelines so people know a little more precisely, or and is it just kind of education and trying to clarify some of the details of the process? And is that money like available now to anyone in most states, or is it really is it truly waiting on the states at the kind of I guess the state level to figure it out before it kind of trickles down to the municipalities and then and eventually the contractors and people that need the funding?
Yeah, so I don't have my arms are wrapped around that enough
Okay,
to
fair enough. Yeah,
and to tell you and in an
yeah.
educated way.
No, that's we don't want to just two people that are not educated on something to babble and just
Yeah.
add to confusion. Um, let's see here. I wanted to chat about I think it's just so cool. You've been on all these panels and discussions here. Tell us what it was like being at the Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies Remodeling Futures event. I know maybe we already talked about that, but is that pretty exciting to, I mean, I like to go to conferences, but obviously not being full-time journalist, whatnot, I have to be careful of the different conferences I go to because there's select ones I have to attend. What was that like? Was that very exciting? Was there a lot of energy and did you see some amazing things? If you just talk to us about what you saw there.
Yeah, no, it's a great group. It's a fabulous group. I know Abby Will and Carlos are heading up that group. They always have great data. We have good conversations. It's a very small and intimate group.
Okay, okay. That's probably something else I should have asked, like how large is the group or the
Yeah.
conversation? Yeah.
Yeah, but some of the leading groups that are some of the leading entities that are part of the remodeling industry, excuse me, are there, and we have great discussions about, you know, what are pros looking for, what is happening, what's the forecast, what is the historically, how can that inform us? Yeah, it's a great conversation. I think, you know, from my perspective, what we're doing at BuildExact is we're working together with the ABC Collaborative, which is part of the United States Department of Energy, and the national labs to create a retrofit program that will go out to contractors and builders and help them through the process of not having to learn the code or to learn how to bring a house up to code based on the different zone that the house is in, the different climate zone the house is in, and just trying to facilitate that process for them through technology. So we're hopeful to launch that in a couple of months, and that's part of what I get to share with the group.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Kind of in a similar vein, there's that other one I wanted to point out that I shared with you was South by Southwest Housing's Need for Innovation on a Global Scale. Who attended that? Like, who was there? Like, was that a big group? Was there people from around the world, mainly just US focused? And what was some kind of takeaways, the exciting takeaways from that conference or that event?
Yeah, thank you. That was super exciting.
Oh, nice.
That, you know, that South by Southwest brought in the topic in general, but we did have attendees from around the world. They were mostly entrepreneurs, investors, a lot of them developers in the housing space. And the conversation basically was around modular and prefabrication and how the different I had 3 different panelists and how they were using prefabrication to lower costs, and some really good examples from Mighty Buildings, Autoval, and then Joe Wheeler was from the Virginia Tech, and he's done some projects like the Solar Decathlon, and he's working with some other production builders here in the US.
Oh, amazing. That sounds like a very exciting and innovative group. Do you truly see, like, yes, there's some case studies they presented there, Jen, but are you convinced, like, personally, that is the future of building, or is like a combination or a hybrid approach of, you know, maybe it's traditional, maybe it's some 3D concrete printing or some type of additive, coupled with modular? What do you think is like the right approach, or what do you see kind of a synthesis depending on the situation?
Yeah, so I think you hit it there, which is I think that it is a hybrid approach.
Sure.
I think that we will more and more move away from conventional building, which is stick frame, And as we become smarter with the prefab and mixing it with 3D or additive manufacturing, I think there will be a combination that will lead to panelization, better performing panels, lighter panels, things that can go to site faster, easier, things that can be developed differently. A lot of the building products that we have currently are made to be installed on site. So whereas, like a piece of drywall is for one person to carry, when we don't have that as a limiting factor, we can be a little bit more creative about the solutions we bring to the market and that are creating better performing. And then we'll get rid of taping and mudding and all the other things that just take time and bog down the process.
Absolutely. Takes lots of labor, some injuries, can be tedious. And as labor it gets tightened, or we have a demographic shift of older folk, then those things that we just kind of relied on or just kind of assumed become actual challenges and bottlenecks, and then creating lots of or sufficient homes. And if you're going to skip that, that's an amazing way to skip over that. As we kind of take it into the last chapter here, Jen, what I see in your bio, you're part of the nonprofit Miracle Travel Works. Could you just share with, I literally have no idea what that is, but I find it to be intriguing, and I like nonprofit work. What is that?
Thank you for asking. That's awesome. So Miracle Travel Works was started by my brother and a couple of his childhood friends. And it's basically, we're regional now, which is Midwest states, but to help families travel with their kids who need critical care. So there's like 6 of us who have been running the organization for a dozen years, and we've helped 900 families. We've raised more than $1 million.
Incredible.
And we
Wow.
just do it all ourselves, and it's super fun and awesome. Yeah.
Amazing. Can you give us a case example here? I don't know, can you just walk us through like a typical case, what a family would experience and how they would get in contact with you? Yeah.
Absolutely. So somebody let's say in Altoona, Iowa, has a baby that's born with a fetal heart disorder, and the specialist for that is in Cincinnati, Ohio, and they have to travel with their child. And a lot of times when that happens, somebody has to quit their job because it's a full-time job taking care of that child.
Yes.
And they lose that income. Plus, the insurance doesn't cover a parent traveling. And so if we do that, and they basically, all they have to do is like submit a paper to us, and we make it super easy administratively, which, they're dealing with all this other stuff, emotionally and mentally and physically. And so we lighten the burden.
That's amazing. And most people have gone through, medical challenges, medical emergencies. My dad passed away from a brain tumor. Many years of that was, incredibly stressful, and not that that's unique, but those things are real. They happen all the time. So that's so exciting and encouraging to hear that kind of organization. And clearly, if I hear myself of some individual or family that's in need, I know to be able to spread that around and share that thing, or share your organization.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah. So let's take it up. Let's wrap up into the final chapter here. What is your kind of, so yes, you're working for BuildExact right now. What is your well, I'll let you just give a kind of a final pitch on that, and then I'll ask you kind of a more of a personal question here. What's the best way to get in touch with BuildExact, and who is your ideal target market or customer there?
Sure, thank you. BuildExact.com is the best way, and you can sign up for a demo or trial there. And our ideal customer profile is basically a custom home builder or remodeler that does less than 10 million a year, and that does probably 10 to 20 projects a year. So
awesome. Yeah, I know a handful of builders like that. And what's the I don't know if you could share, maybe it's not fair, but what is like kind of like gives the approximate cost, additional cost of what you do? Obviously it's value. I'm sure it's valuable to save in some additional costs. What does that look like for the casual listener, casual builder? Like, hey, I'll give them a shout to see if it's worth my time.
Yeah, so there's 3 different tiers of pricing. So a pro entry, and it's on a monthly basis. So depending on what your needs are, And then there's an annual package where you can save a couple months.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And so the final question here, what are you most excited about? And this is just like you, because you have such a amazing perspective and you're going to these amazing conferences and talking to all the people in the know. What do you see, well, I guess personally, what are you most excited about? What do you see for the future for yourself, or where do you want to, where do you hope to, where do you hope to see more of across the building space?
Collaboration.
Collaboration.
Bottom line is just more transparency, more collaboration. And I see, there are some people out there that are just so passionate, and it's just a beautiful thing about sharing their innovation so that it goes to scale. And I just want to see more of that.
Amazing. Well, that's a fantastic place to wrap this up. So thank you for a great interview, talking through just a variety kind of high level topics and getting deep on a few. We thank you for sharing your time with us. And then, of course, all my listeners here, be sure to give us a thumbs up, a like, share the word. And then, of course, what's the best way to get, yes, there's BuildExact, but what's the best way to get in touch with you, Jen?
You talked about LinkedIn in the beginning. I am very active on LinkedIn. So Jennifer Castenson, look me up on LinkedIn. And thank you so much. It's been a huge pleasure and great questions. I really enjoyed our time today.
Amazing. Until next time. Thanks all.